Welcome to She Loves the Grid, where we discuss all things F1, whether it's happening. All right, well, welcome back to She Loves the Grid after a Sizzler, as we're calling this, because oh my, this is going to be a long one. Just be ready, everyone. This is going to be a long ride. There's so much to talk about, but how was your week, Diane?
Oh my gosh, like the best week ever. Best week
Okay,
ever.
not just the last couple of hours, not just the last couple of hours, but your week.
The whole week has been awesome. Like starting with Monday Night Football, like, oh my gosh, got my hair done, went to see my daughter. We have a thing with the Jonas Brothers. So when she was growing up, I used to take her to see the Jonas Brothers all the time. And they're touring again. And she said, she wanted to go. So I went up to Denver. And the funny thing was when I was checking my Facebook memories 13 years ago, that very same day, I had woke her up that morning to tell her, surprise, you're going to see the Jonas Brothers / Camp Rock concert tonight. She was so excited. And so I sent that to her on my way up to Denver because here we are, 13 years later, going to see the Jonas Brothers again. And they were great. We had so much fun and then did a comedy show and, just great dinners, lots of awesome talking. And then Carlos gets pole. And now today, Carlos wins the first non-Red Bull driver. Like, I am freaking out. And again, for the second race, I'm wearing my Carlos t-shirt. I got to represent. I'm wearing it to the farmer's market later. So nobody will probably care because nobody around here seems anything about F1, but I care. So yay. How was your week?
It was good. I think we're coming to the end of having all the stuff done for the move. So other than getting the washer and dryer installed, I've got like 2 things that haven't arrived yet shipment wise, like a bookcase and a couple of things like mats for the computer, but got to do a little wire management. But yeah, finally, I feel like last night was the first night. That was Friday night. It's like, I don't have anything to do on the house. I'm just going to pass out on my dog bed for adults.
I love that.
Yeah.
Good for you. You guys have been working hard. You've been working really hard.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday we had to go clean the old place, so I didn't get to watch everything live, but but it was good. It's nice. It's like a finally, and then next week I'm going to Ireland for my birthday. Yes. So I'm excited about that.
Yay. And you have an anniversary tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. That's right. 29 years.
Yes. That's exciting. Yay, you guys.
Yay. All right. We have a lot to talk about. So
oh my gosh. We do
this week before the race.
This week, I know, and kind of all I want to talk about is the race, but there was very, very important things that happened this week. So there was a FIA directive that came out this week. And I had to go yesterday and watch some of the stuff on F1 to learn more about it. It's a little technical, but it's about flexible wings. And this is like kind of it's been around for years where the FIA is really trying to police flexible wings, but it's very difficult to police flexible wings because they are just going to move. That's like aerodynamics. So what the F1 rules actually state already is they can't have movable aerodynamics on the car. So the rules state that the wings and other parts like that have to be mounted rigidly to a car. But those parts really aren't rigid. They can't be fully rigid ever. And so the teams kind of really use that, maybe that gray area to get a little bit more out of those parts. And the FAA is like, oh, hang on, we've got to put out a directive. And usually these are private to the teams. So they tend to come out about different things, maybe once a year, maybe a couple times a year, it just depends. And they're usually private to the teams, but they will put something out publicly. And that's what I did see earlier this week, where they just kind of made a comment about directives and whatever. So anyways, at the Dutch Grand Prix is when this came out, and they said, starting from Singapore on, they're going to do more testing. So a lot of the testing that they do on these types of rules is static testing. And that doesn't show what happens when the car is actually going like 200 miles an hour. You can't really see what's happening. So in a static test, it may look like everything's great and it's meeting all the rules, but once you get it on a straight or whatever, you start to see things that maybe you wouldn't see if it was just static. So there were a few areas that the FIA picked out, and one is where the front wing is attached to the nose structure of the car. So they do tend to think that some of the teams are playing some games there, and the way that those wings are constructed and the way that they're mounted. So it's allowing the wings to move a little bit more under the aerodynamics of the car when it's going. So the other area, or I guess I should say another area, is the rear wing, kind of like up where the gearbox is. It depends on the car, but kind of up in that area. And then around the tips, like some of the wing elements. So those are the three areas that they're really looking for. And you all know I love Sam Collins. So I had to watch Sam Collins take on this. And he was kind of saying, like the wings are essentially upside down aircraft wings. So when the car is driving through the air, it's generating downforce, but that downforce comes with drag. So it kind of acts like a parachute, right, on the back of the car. And it slows the cars down on the straights. But you kind of want that rear wing, that's what you want it to do on the straights, is not like exist. You don't want it to, you kind of want to pretend that the rear wing isn't there, if that makes sense. And hopefully I'm explaining all of this well. It is pretty technical. So if I'm not explaining it well, or if I'm confusing you more, I highly recommend going to F1 TV and then watch Sam Collins talk about it. But then also Will Buxton and Albert, I can't remember his last name, they do kind of a demonstration with actual like parts. And on that video, they're only like 7 or 8 minutes each, but on that video, they specifically call out all the different codes. So anyways, on the straights, you want the rear wing to like basically not exist, but on the turns, you want the rear wing to exist as much as possible because you want to generate downforce. So over the years, like the teams, they've tried to engineer the wings to like drop down at high speed and reduce the drag. And then when the car brakes, they pop back up. So there's like little pieces that just go up and down, up and down. And they're, they're geniuses, especially Adrian Newey. So they know how to do this to like, okay, when we're slowing down, we want it to like pop up. And so anyways, that's what they want to combat, is all of that stuff. So again, flexible wings, it's inevitable. They know that some flexibility is going to happen, but now teams have to submit, I think, all of the details. So I'm assuming, like in my non-engineer brain, I'm thinking like you have to submit to us drawings or specs or whatever of how you've created these. And they have to do that before every race now. So that's going to be interesting how they do that. But
that makes sense because they oftentimes are changing their wings out,
they do
slightly. So they need to resubmit that to see if it still complies.
Yes. And a few years ago, I think it was like in 2019, I think it was 2019, there were like round stickers. I have to turn my head. There were round stickers on rear wings, kind of like on the sides, and then the rear beam, like the lower beam wing. And that allowed the FIA to kind of like video, so they could watch a car during a race or during practice or whatever, and they could see if those stickers were moving. Are they going down? Are they going up? Like what is happening? So we might start to see that again. So if you see little stickers, and if I notice it like in Japan next week, I'll try to take a picture or something just so we can reference it. But that is one way that the FIA could probably note if a team is maybe violating this new directive. So there was a lot of speculation that this was aimed at Red Bull. And then there was even more speculation with Red Bull not doing well this weekend, like at all. They did not show out at all in Singapore. Right. So there was definitely a lot of speculation that like, ooh, did this new rule already go into effect and Red Bull's really a mid-level team? I don't think so. Total Wolf doesn't think that's the case. It's just this car, Red Bull, this track, Singapore was horrible for it. So we'll see moving forward. Like it could be really interesting. But that's a big, big change. And I know we just took several minutes talking about it, but it's important for people to know about. So there we go.
There we go.
That's done. But moving into silly season. Okay, so we know Joe kept his seat, right? Like,
yeah.
You were saying that during practice, the commentators didn't think he should.
Yeah, they didn't think he was good. The commentators were like, they thought that they should wait because there was, they always felt that Alfa Romeo takes the leftover driver or the I shouldn't say leftover, but the driver who just doesn't quite make the seat for Red Bull. So they thought that why did they go ahead and take up the space for Zhou when he hasn't had quite the year? He's kind of just been fair to Midland, really. He's just been okay. So I thought it was interesting to have their take on that during, I think it was during FP1 or FP2 that they were talking about that.
Yeah. I was excited to see Zhou get the seat. Like, honestly, I don't know. I guess I feel like I couldn't make a case to get rid of him.
Yeah.
And, it's like the car sucks. It just does. He and Valtteri are pretty much nowhere. But Zhou has had moments where, like, today I think he was almost in the points.
12.
Yeah, he was almost there, which Valtteri was not. Wasn't Valtteri even further down?
Valtteri actually ended up not finishing at the very end.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he had some problems right there at the very end, and he didn't finish. He got through 51 laps.
Okay. Oh, wow. I didn't even know he left the race. This is like Esteban in the last race. Like he retired.
I can't imagine who you were paying attention to, but yeah.
I was solely at the front of that race. Okay, the other thing, and this breaks my heart. I'm happy for Zhou. Love Zhou. That may be an unpopular decision, but this breaks my heart is that there's a lot of rumors flying around right now about Yuki, my global treasure. There's conversation that supposedly they're going to give Liam Yuki's seat. And Yuki is going to go and be a reserve driver at Red Bull. So he will do simulations and testing. And supposedly, if Liam, this was what was being said earlier this week, if Liam gets points, which he did today, and he out-qualified Yuki, that he will get the seat.
Yeah, and Yuki had car issues, so he didn't even finish today.
Yeah, he didn't even get a lap time in Q2 yesterday.
And he didn't get a lap at all today in the race. He's marked at 0 because he not even a lap.
Breaks my heart. Like this breaks my heart. So I'm hoping, but knowing how cutthroat Red Bull is. And Liam, we'll talk about him more, but he is doing a wonderful job. I think kind of as a rookie, like he's come in and shown out better than any of the 3 rookies that we started with. Like if you think back to those first 3 races with our 3 rookies at the beginning of the season, like Liam's doing way better. And he doesn't know Singapore any better than Oscar or what's his face, Logan, like that at all. Like, so, and he comes in and gets points on his 3rd race in a car he doesn't even know at Singapore, which is.
Yeah, and Logan only got second to last because 4 people didn't finish, and Fernando had a 25-second pit stop.
I know. That was horrible.
Yeah, if it weren't for the 25-second pit stop, and Fernando had a crappy race anyway, he wouldn't be last, and Logan would have been last. That's the only thing that saved Logan from being last this time.
Wow.
Fernando having a 25-second pit stop. And he only got ahead of Fernando by 1.1 seconds, almost 2, almost 1.2.
And Fernando also had that 5-second penalty for going over the. I don't know if he served that during a.
I don't know if they considered that as part of the 25 seconds he was stuck in the pit lane.
I bet it was. Yeah, I don't know what happened, that rear jack, and I don't know if they put that little piece back on the rear
Yeah,
of the car.
yeah, they said that slipped. They also, I saw them having trouble with the front tire and the back tire. It's like it slipped off the jack or something. So yeah, 25-second pit stop.
Oh my God. Poor Fernando. He was up there at first too. Like he was
He was doing
doing
pretty decent. He was doing pretty decent, but yeah. They kept saying
anyway.
the car was not drivable. Let's get to let's keep going.
Yeah,
But yeah,
we will talk about that. So we're down to 3 seats now open. So we still have Logan's seat open. I don't know what's going to happen there. I feel like he's not really proving
no.
much. And then the 2 AlphaTauris, but we pretty much know Danny Rick is going to be one of those for sure. So we'll see what happens. Okay, we need to round out the Chatty Cathy baloney. So as I predicted and actually hoped. Listen, people, I've been up since 4:45 this morning. The race started at 5 a.m. my time. As I hoped, they were asked about this during the pressers on Thursday. Lewis said he wasn't surprised with Chatty Cathy. Also, if you're new to our podcast, Chatty Cathy is Helmet Marco. That's what I call him because the man does not stop talking. So anyways, he was not surprised with Chatty Cathy's comments. Max said, I don't think I'm the right person to educate Helmet. I think he quickly realized what he said and he apologized for it. No, he wasn't quick about it. That happened more than a week ago. And he only apologized, in my opinion, because the fans were blowing up Red Bull's social media.
And to say that he's not the right person to educate him, that's the problem with today in society and racism and whatnot in general. We are all responsible for educating each other. We're all responsible for standing up and saying, whoa, that's wrong.
Right.
Stop. I don't put up with that in my presence. You're not going to be that way. This is my teammate. No. So
exactly.
We're all responsible. So that's a cop out, Max.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. You are spot on. I think it is a huge cop out. Like at some point you have to take a stand for what
we have to start speaking up. It's if we don't as individuals speak up when we see what's wrong and we keep saying it's not my place, it just continues to perpetuate. We all have to stand up. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Or you're saying, I really don't see how much is wrong in it. I'm just not going to say anything about it because I agree. You know, that's really what it's saying.
Yep, exactly. No, and that was my thought too, was like, you know, and you can go down a whole path with that. We've already talked about his girlfriend's dad and, you know, all of that stuff. Like, you never know. Sergio did say that he had a very good conversation with Helmet. He said that he apologized, and to him, that was the main thing. So, you know, again, in my opinion, I feel like Sergio had to say that because, like, he was forced to, you know, you have to accept the apology.
It sounds very team focused, sounds very corporate, sounds very, you know.
Yeah. What else is he going to say?
If he says what he really feels, do you think his life's going to get any easier at Red Bull right now?
No. And it's like you were saying, in all walks of life, this happens over and over. You know, you want to keep your job. You want to be looked at as a team player. Like you take it and, you know, you take those aggressions and then you're just like, okay, I just have to move on. Here's where I got really upset. And I'm going to read some of this stuff because Christian Horner's comments. Okay. And I want your take on this. So here's what Christian had to say. Those comments weren't right. Helmet quickly recognized that and apologized for that both publicly and directly to Sergio. He went on to say that everybody continues to learn even at age 80, which is how old Chatty Cathy is. I thought he was a little bit older, but anyways. And then he said, Checo is a massively popular member, an important member of our team. I pushed very hard to sign him for the 2021 season. Oh, I'm giving himself props. We have a huge following around the world, and we take that very seriously, very responsibly. The fan following that the team has, Checo has, and F1 has, we are very conscious of it. This is his 250th race, and we want to focus on that. And I just, reading it made me so mad because I feel like there's so many issues. I feel like I pushed very hard to sign him to me is like, I have a, you know, fill in the blank, you know, friend. Yeah. I have a insert.
Or if it weren't for me, he wouldn't be on Red Bull. If it weren't for me,
Right.
I'm the savior here. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I don't hear an apology. There's nowhere in that statement does Christian apologize in any way, shape, or form to Sergio for what Sergio has had to deal with on this team, not just last week, but we talked about it before. Helmut has said things in the past about Checo, not, we're sorry that Helmut said this, nothing. To me, it just sounds like optics. Like you said, it sounds very corporate. And you're talking about Checo's following and Red Bull's following and everything else. It sounds like you're just like, I don't know how to say it. Like we're only addressing this because we know our fans are mad at us because
at the same time, we all need to learn and we're always learning. So in addition to the apology, we're going to require everyone, especially Helmut, to go through a diversity course. He needs to understand. We're going to re-up our diversity training. We're going to and have an action plan and share that in full transparency of what they're going to do to raise the awareness, the knowledge, so that understand to prevent this. It was just more like, he's apologized. He's still learning, and we can all learn. Learn how. I learn how this public backlash. That's how he's learning. Where's the education? Where's the thing to prevent it? Where's the CAPA, the corrective action plan? Where is that? I don't see the action plan to correct this, to prevent it from happening again.
Nope. They're just sweeping it under the rug, and they're giving Helmut a pass again because they think that's going to help them keep the fans that they have. Their social media is still not as much, but people are still posting in there about why get rid of Helmut. You've gotten rid of other people for doing less. So to me, it just sounds like a big push on like we're just saying the words. We're just saying the words so that we try to get some of our fans back and we get Checo's fans back. I think it's going to be very interesting for sure when they go to Mexico, and I think it's going to be interesting maybe when they go to Brazil even. So yeah, it's not good. But anyways, on Friday, it was finally announced that a written notice and that Helmut received a written notice and was reminded of his responsibilities as a public figure in motorsports in line with FIA Code of Ethics. Quite frankly, it's a little late. Again, it's a little late. You come out, it's been like a week and a half. We talked about it on last week's podcast. So that means that's been a full week, and it happened that week prior to our before our podcast. So you're just now coming out with it. I think you're just now realizing that people are not going to put up with this, and we're going to call you out on it. So anyways, very quickly, the Felipe Massa lawsuit. We talked about this before, so just go back and listen to it. But it has to do with the Singapore Grand Prix back in 2008 and the Nelson Piquet Jr. crash, and how that had implications on the World Driver Championship that year that had Lewis winning by 1 point. We talked about how Felipe has filed a letter before claim with the FIA and F1, I believe both of them, saying are citing unlawful acts and that he would have been awarded the 2008 championship. So he's asking for money because he felt that his reputation was harmed, that he would have made a lot more money being a world driving championship, everything else. So this week's Massa's lawyer decided to bring Lewis into it. And Lewis is probably like, hey, I got nothing to do with it.
Right?
It's not Lewis's fault that he won by 1 point. So anyways, Massa's lawyer is saying Hamilton is an important ambassador for the sport, and he's always defending sporting integrity. He is an honorary Brazilian citizen and very well liked by Brazilians. So I hope he will support us, which I think this is not a great move. I just do not agree with putting Lewis in a position where you're trying to get him to back you so that you can hopefully, get something from this lawsuit.
It puts Lewis in a bad position too if you didn't talk to him first about it, because you're publicly calling him out to throw his name one way or the other versus saying something to him privately, and maybe they did say something to him privately and he doesn't want to, and this is a way to get him to do it. And then that's dirty. That's the case.
It's very dirty. And as the guy who ended up winning the championship that year, if you all of a sudden get him behind you, that's just another feather, I would think, in your legal defense that, hey, even the driver that won thinks I should have won, so give it to me. Like, you know what I mean? I think they could try to use that. And maybe it's my waking up at 4:45 a.m. logic, but like I think they could try to use that to be like, see, even the driver that won the championship thinks we should have won it, so give it to us. Like I would totally stay out of it. Anyways, Massa's lawyers have given the FIA until mid-October to respond. So originally they said they wanted a very quick response, but yeah, they gave them to mid-October. So we'll have another update then, unless something else happens. But heading back to Checo, it was his 250th Grand Prix, and he wore a special helmet. It's
they didn't talk about that at all, but yeah.
No, I don't think they did talk about that today, did they? I don't think so. Yeah, it's which is not good. I mean, 250 Grand Prix, Haas doesn't even have that many, like, as a team. And they've been around for like 10 years now, I think. So anyways, he wore a special helmet. It had Mexico, colors on the top. And, I think especially after this past week, I think this Grand Prix means more to him than probably anything. So anyways, Williams, I think we have a picture of you on our YouTube channel. They were not expecting to do well here in Singapore, but look at that livery. This is the special golf livery that they're running, I think, for this race, Japan, and then maybe Qatar, maybe 3 races. For sure, they're running it next week in Japan. I think it's a beauty. I love it. It's not the one I voted for, but I still love it. It looks so pretty. I love those. I love the golf colors. I love them. And they did come out with merch, but I wasn't that excited about it, so I didn't end up buying any. And then also McLaren had a special livery. They went dark mode all the way through for the night race. You can barely see it because they photographed it on a black background, but it's mostly black. And yeah,
it's all photographed in dark, and it's dark. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yes, but I love their idea. I think they're running it next week also. I think they're running it in Japan. But it was basically, as far as upgrades go, and I missed out on, I know a lot of cars had upgrades this weekend. A lot.
Upgrades.
Yes. And this one was basically a whole new car. So it's like the 3rd whole new car basically for McLaren this season. Insane. Like so much stuff. Only Lando's car had it though. Oscar's didn't have it. So maybe that was why Oscar seemed to be kind of struggling a little bit this week. But the main thing, it was used to address like the issues that the car had like at slow speed. So that's where they were really kind of struggling with some of their past upgrades. And Lando got second today, so there you go.
Yeah, it was the McLaren and the AlphaTauri both have practically all new cars. They were saying like from the mirrors back.
That's amazing. And I had heard that this is probably the last race where we're going to see those kind of major upgrades. Like at this point in the season, that they're going to start looking towards next year. We know Williams is already looking towards next year. Like they're not even thinking they're going to have a track that suits them until Las Vegas, which is the second to the last race in November. So, there's a lot of teams. They said this was kind of the last place. Also, they don't think that there will be a lot of major upgrades because we're traveling a lot. And it's expensive to start shipping all of that stuff because we were in Singapore, we go to Japan, not a huge thing. Then it's Qatar. We've got, a couple races coming up in America. You've got Mexico. So it's just a lot. It's too much to do and then ship. So start focusing on next year. But also speaking of AlphaTauri, Daniel was back in the paddock this weekend. He was sitting on the pit wall, at least during quali, I think in practice, but they said no press. He wasn't doing any press this weekend. So they were keeping him well under wraps. But before we move on to actual race weekend, I have a fun fact for you. Are you ready? I think this is a pretty cool one, and it involves Fernando because all my fun facts seem to have
something cool for Fernando considering he had a crappy race.
I know. So as of lap 26 today in the Singapore GP, Alonso has driven 100,000 kilometers. That's 62,137 miles in his career. That's 2.5 times around the equator. And he's the first F1 driver to do that. And he's still driving.
Amazing.
It's amazing. It's so amazing. The first F1 driver to do that. And we've got how many races? This was 16. So we've got 4 or 5 races left. Do we only have 5 races left?
We have, I'm just looking at that. We have
No.
Japan, Qatar, United States, Mexico, Brazil, United States, and Abu Dhabi. We have 7.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't add today. 7 races left. So he's just going to
think
keep
about
adding.
that. We have Japan and then back over to Qatar. Then we have United States, Mexico, Brazil, and the United States. So we have 4 all in your time zone area.
Finally.
And then back to Abu Dhabi.
I'm so excited for the time zone. My time zone. Yes. That's going to be amazing. I had major FOMO. People are posting their wristbands for Austin have been arriving this week. Major FOMO. Damn it. I should have just said, I'm going to the race. And I let myself be talked out of it because we went last year and now I should have just gone. Dumb. Go with your gut. Anyways. Okay. Let's talk about a little bit about practice. I didn't watch any of the practice sessions because I was having fun with my daughter in Denver, but we know that practice was all about the lizards.
Sleeping lizards.
Sleeping lizards. I was dying reading the
it was so funny.
The team radios. Like Max and GP were actually kind of funny. Like there's a lizard on the track and then he goes around again. Oh, there's another lizard, but it's not the same one, it's smaller. And I know George was saying the same thing. So really hysterical. Like, and those lizards were just like, they'd wait. Okay, the car's gone, and it would just cross the track. I thought that was funny.
Then we got fun facts on monitor lizards and all that. I'm like, look, you can come to F1 and get education about other things. Then they talked about having a different flag because they were using the flag that's for like the track is slippery. Like, well, maybe we should have an animals on the track flag.
Yeah.
And then the commentator's like, well, what races is that going to apply to? Oh, well, there's Canada, then there's Australia. You know, it's like, well, does it have to be different animals or just animals on the track? They're trying to talk about what animals would they put on the flag to show the animals on the track. Well, we need a kangaroo and we need a beef, you know. Like they were talking about all the different types of animals that we need to put on there. It was hysterical.
Yes. I think that'd be so cute. You could have a little beaver on one or a little groundhog.
Yeah, I think or just have one flag that has all the different animals on it. You know, like a lizard, a beaver, and a kangaroo. Get all the different ones just kind of lined up across the middle. It would be hysterical.
I heard that Alonso ran over one. But I didn't see anything else. He did?
I didn't see that.
Oh, I heard that, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm sure if it is, they're going to keep that under wraps so that way we don't offend anybody. Yeah. Anyways, so FP2, Alex Albon maybe got 5 laps in, and then he was in the pits the rest of the practice. He didn't hardly get any time, so no data, which sucked because that was also like would have been race time as far as when they started. But James said that they had an issue with a part; it's underneath the floor, so they had to jack the car up, take the floor off, and deal with that. And there's just no way. There's no way you're getting back out on track for that. So just seeing the practice times, I knew that Carlos was confident. It was like Monza all over again. And when Carlos is confident, watch out. I honestly knew on Friday he was going to get pole on Saturday. I knew it. I'm like, he is looking amazing. And when he feels that confident, again, he's gonna do it. Okay, let's get into quali. So I listened to quali while I'm laying in bed yesterday morning in Denver. And so as not to wake up my daughter, I had my earphone in and I'm watching on the F1 app. So I can only see the times, like you were saying, and the commentary was off and it kept repeating. And so I was like all over the place. So when I got home yesterday, I sat down and I watched it.
By the way, you can turn the commentary off on the timing.
Oh, I might need to do that.
So
I mean, it was kind of good to hear because you hear some of the race radios, but when it kept repeating,
you can have radio on and commentary off.
Oh, okay. That's what I need to do then.
That's what I have. I have radio on and commentary off. So I'm only hearing the commentary from the TV or from whatever I'm listening to, and then I just have radio on the timing.
Oh,
I hear radio twice, but I want to make sure I hear what the drivers are saying.
Yeah. No, the drivers are more interesting for sure. Okay, so Q1, Stroll was impeded by Logan. And this was like a domino effect. This is almost like the domino effect we have with Alex Albon getting appendicitis last year and all the stuff that has been put into motion right down to knocking Max out. Like, so here we go. So Stroll was impeded by Logan. On his final, well, it was really towards the end on that, like would have been his final lap in Q1. He was taking all the risks that he could. Boom, right into the wall. As he was coming into that, like even the curve before, it looked like he was fighting that car. Like he was just like all over. And look at that. Like when I'm listening, just I had no idea how bad it was. And they kept saying, horrific. There's no front part of the car at all. And if you're on our YouTube, you can see the picture of Lance climbing out of the car. It's in the middle of the track. The nose is gone. The wing is gone. The front left tire is gone.
And the back tire was jacked up too.
I mean,
the back left tire. Did I say front back tire? The back left tire is gone. Yeah, it was pretty hard and brutal how it hit and spun him around. And they kept saying the safety measures that they have in the car is why he walked away.
Yes, and you can see why if you see this picture. Like it is insane. They did say they were surprised and they would probably be looking into why one of the tires the tether didn't keep the tire, attached to the car. It rolled away. And so they did need to figure out, what happened there. But everything is gone. And he's facing the direction that the cars are coming. So all of a sudden, here comes a McLaren. I think it was Piastri. And this is what you see. There's debris all over. There's a tire someplace. And Lance's car is sitting smashed up in the middle of the track. Like, I couldn't even imagine coming around a corner and seeing that. Now, of course, they probably saw the yellow flag in the car and, all that good stuff. So they knew something was happening, but holy moly. But that brought out the red flag and ended Q1. So I was
and then even though I'm sure that we can't stay up all night getting like the car ready and trying to get everything to go, and then this morning sometime they just announced that he just wasn't feeling right. Well, he wasn't injured per se, he was still feeling off, and he chose not to compete today.
Okay, so I did not know that. I just assumed that the car was not ready. I did not know.
They didn't mention the car. They said that was a statement put out by, I got the email about it. The statement put out by Aston Martin that Lance was not feeling steady after the crash. While he wasn't injured, he was shaken up pretty hard, and he was not feeling his full health to be able to compete today.
Wow. I mean, that was a brutal hit. Like when they played just the sound of that hitting, oh my goodness. I don't know how you don't end up with whiplash or just being sore, like your body just being completely sore. In the presser afterwards, he just seemed really annoyed. They were asking him, how he's feeling. And he was just like, I'm fine. They said, I'm fine. Like he did not want to talk about it at all, probably for a lot of reasons, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But prior to that, go ahead.
I was trying to see if I could find the press release, but yeah, it was basically his feelings, but yeah.
Yeah,
anyway.
That is crazy. I was just going to say, prior to that, again, we have the cars lining up around that final corner. That is my pet peeve. It drives me nuts. Albon was lucky enough to get through. He went up kind of the outside of everybody and was able to get through. Max was complaining about it. Like, it's just so annoying. But my little global treasure had the fastest time in Q1. And because it took so long for that red flag for them to clean everything up, it got to stay on the board for a really long time. and because of the track evolution, your top 5 was Yuki, then Sergio, Hulkenberg, Magnussen, and Liam Lawson. That is insane. Your Q1 top 5. Like, what? Both Haas's are in there and only one Red Bull in the top 5.
It just showed you where it was going, right? It just showed you where it was going.
Yes. I mean, I feel like they were doing terrible the whole time. So out in Q1, we had Sargent, Stroll, Bottas, Zhou, and Piastri. Max was noted for impeding. So he stopped in the pit lane. There was a green light. You're not allowed to stop in the pit lane. You can't just stop there because you want to. So George, of course, is on the phone or on the radio to his engineer saying, like, does Max have a problem? Like, can I go around him? Because there's also rules in some cases about going around drivers, like in the pit lane. So Max's engineer GP comes on the radio and, is everything okay? Max starts to say that he's leaving room because there were a whole bunch of cars going out right before him. He didn't want to be stuck in traffic. So he starts to say that he's leaving room. GP cuts him off, barely gets out. He knew where Max was going with that and says, everything looks good now. Like, you can go. Full on covering for Max in that situation. He did not want Max to say that on the radio. He did not want that coming out. So he was noted for impeding in the pit lane. Okay, Q2. While they're waiting for all the stuff to get picked up and the barrier to be fixed, they're all sitting in their cars and they're just sweating. And we talked about last week how much weight they lose, how difficult it is. Mm-hmm. There was so much content this week on all of the teams' social medias. Ice baths. Never seen more ice baths in my life. They were all doing them all the time. And they were talking about just the toll that Singapore and the heat takes on the drivers. So for them to be sitting there, I think it was like 20 something minutes, although it felt longer than that. And it probably felt longer to them than that. But yeah, they were sitting in that car just sweating it out. Like, they all had like dry ice or air conditioning things on them. Yeah. This was kind of cool. So Alex is the first Williams into Q2 at Singapore since 2016. So,
whoa.
Yeah, they do not do well here, and they were definitely not expecting to do well here. But getting into Q2, like, they were excited. They were happy about that. Can't believe it. So in Q2, Yuki went into the pits with 9 minutes left. Max impeded Yuki. That was why Yuki kind of backed off, went into the pits. Like Stuart said, we'll look at that after the after the qualifying, and even the commentators were like, "That is a slam dunk. That's a slam dunk impeding." He fully impeded Yuki, and Yuki never ended up getting an actual time in Q2. So he started what? 15?
And Max doesn't get on the penalties. Just a little slap on the wrist.
And we will talk about that for sure. Because, I mean, I was so mad. I was in line
complaining the whole day, the whole weekend.
Well, he's a complainer when things don't go well. Perez spun his car, but he was able to get going, but it ruined his lap. It totally ruined his lap. He could not get it. There was no more time for him to get it. But the biggest story was Max was out in Q2. It was
out. Amazing. And I just see Lawson push him out was just like I got to watch that before the race because of course I was cleaning all day yesterday. So I got to watch that before the race and I was squealing. I mean, I knew it was going to happen. It was just like to see it happen, to see Lawson. And then that meme you sent afterwards was just...
So Liam Lawson, the replacement AlphaTauri, their sister team, knocks Max out. And it was only by like
0.07 seconds or something like that. It was really tight.
And listen, like you said, Max was complaining. He did not look good all week. And he complained about drifting, no rear grip. He complained about the upshifts, said it was just giving him wheel spins, the upshifts, the downshifts, like everything. And after
I gotta do the math.
Okay, you do the math. After Max found out he was out in Q2, he said on the radio, "I don't know if you saw that." And then he said a few other things, like absolutely shocking experience. Like, he was pissed. And he got back to the pit. You know how they kind of sit in front of the garage, like horizontally, like they're in the pit box. And the team jacks up the car a little bit, how they do to turn it to go back into the garage. He hops out of the car then. The car's wobbling because it's up on a thing, and he just hops out and he stops down to the weight area and he's just mad the whole time. And like he
7,000ths of a second.
Oh, Liam Lawson, we love you. We love you, Liam Lawson. That's amazing.
But what's interesting is even in Q1, Liam was faster than Max by 0.1 seconds. By 0.1 seconds. Yeah, so he was faster than him in both Q1 and Q2.
Yes.
Max just wasn't performing this weekend.
No, and neither was Sergio. The car sucked there. They don't know why the car sucked. That's what Christian was saying is like, we don't know why. Like they tried a different setup, I think, in one of the practices, but they went back to what they knew worked or what had been working for them. And they don't know why. Maybe it is the new role. Maybe it is the flexible wing thing, and they had to do that. We'll find out and see if that's true if we keep seeing this happen, like in Japan. And
no Red Bulls in Q3. It was just amazing.
None. I mean, for Perez, that's kind of normal, but this season. But for Max, not at all. And I sent Claire this meme, y'all, and I wish I could send it to everybody, but it was from a soccer thing, right? And it said,
football. It was the dude coming to put in his code. That one. That's the one I like. The code's not working.
Yeah.
Wait. Code's not working. Has that been cut? Wait, it's only been like 2 games. What's going on here? Have I been just totally locked out? Like that's Liam when you knock out Max. That was hysterical.
Yeah. Poor Liam is like, dang it, I probably should have done that. Because seriously, like how mad do you think that Christian Horner was seeing that it was their own sister team that knocked Max out?
All I can think of is that song from Hamilton. I want to be in the room when it happens. I want to be there to hear that. Like just the, oh my gosh. Yeah. There's just so much of this weekend of having no Red Bull in so many places. It was
amazing. And Liam Lawson probably was so conflicted because like he made it into Q3, right? Like, and he knocked out Max. But also, he made it into Q3 and knocked out Max. He was probably peeing his pants and excited, like all at the same time. But he did. He outperformed Yuki. Yuki never got that time, and both Haas cars went through to Q3 for the first time this year. Who would have thought at the beginning of the season? Who would have thought last week that both Haas cars would make it into Q3 and both Red Bulls would be out in Q2?
Yeah,
like nobody. So we did have out in Q2, besides Max and Checo, Yuki, Gasly, and Albon. So first Q3 with no Red Bull cars. Russell and Norris both looking awesome, but Sainz just had him beat. And he's on pole for the second Grand Prix in a row.
So amazing. I was so happy for him. It's one of those things. It's like, I knew you were happy. And I was like, what did I put Sainz up there to win it though.
I know you did.
I had all the confidence that he was doing it. I just had a feeling Max was going to find his curvy little weight in there somehow, but I guess he didn't.
I'm telling you, I knew on Friday when I saw that Carlos, how well he was doing in practices, I knew he was going to get pole, but I don't allow myself to think about the win because I don't want to jinx anything. And but I'm in the hotel room jumping up and down and screaming like, yes, Carlos. The poor people below us on the floor. Like, sorry, not sorry.
Max only got one fastest lap the whole race.
Who, Carlos?
Max only got one fastest lap the whole race.
I'm surprised he had a fastest lap.
He got one. He eked out one in the 61st lap.
Well, good for him.
But somebody else took it from him in the end. So,
Okay, speaking of the steward, you kind of mentioned this. So Max did not get a penalty for any of the violations at all. Shocking. I was not shocked. And here I'm standing in line to get on the airplane, and I am muttering to myself, and probably the people behind me thought I was a little bit crazy, but I don't care. That is some BS. Like, absolute BS. Walking into the steward's office, he was all smiles. Did not look upset coming out. Now we know why, because he only got a reprimand for the pit lane impeding, and Yuki did not show up for that portion of the impeding violation that Max had. So Yuki playing the team game, he was told, because AlphaTauri is the sister team to Red Bull, to not show up for that. And it was probably some payback for Liam knocking Max out. That is my opinion, that they were like, okay, we won't send Yuki. We're not gonna, it just doesn't seem fair to me. It does not seem fair that if you have a sister team that doesn't show up, like coming to court or whatever, that it's dismissed. That does not seem right at all. Max should have had a 3-place grid drop. He should have. That's just me. So this race, especially like the first 40, 50 laps, just was about managing tires, and it was kind of boring. Not going to lie. Kind of boring at the beginning. For sure. Carlos, brilliant drive, and we'll talk about Ferrari in just a second, but absolutely brilliant. He managed it perfectly. That's all I can say. Manage those tires. Okay, let's talk about Alpine. So first of all, it's Esteban's birthday, and he was doing really good. He was doing so good. He made a great move on Fernando. There was a 3-way battle with Fernando, Perez, and Ocon, and he got through there. Beautiful.
That was crazy.
It was so good. And then a few laps later, because he's running in the points, beating Gasly, his car just stops. Engine failure, mechanical issue, whatever, brings out the safety car.
You can hear it in his voice. You can just hear it.
Yeah, he screamed. Like, this has been Alpine all year. They are so unreliable. You never know what's going to happen, ever, with them.
He was doing so good, and just boom. My heart broke for him.
My heart broke for him too, because I feel like there's nobody on this grid that has worse luck than Esteban Ocon. I mean, he's a running joke on the penalty, time second penalties, like all year. Yeah. His car has stopped on him multiple times. Like, he's been taken out by his teammate. Like, I just feel so bad for him. Pierre did all right though, right? Like, where did he finish? I don't even know. I think
Pierre Gasly got 6th, so moved up 1 because of Russell's car dropping out. So he's in 6th.
Well, and also like Esteban dropping out, that helped him too, because Esteban was ahead of him, I think, the entire race, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Alfa Romeo. So Zhou started from the pits.
Yes, because of violating park for me.
Yeah. So what did they do to his car though? Do you know?
I don't recall them saying. I can try to look that up.
Okay.
But
it's all right. 12. I mean, they didn't finish. I mean, we know he finished 12th, and Valtteri didn't finish at all. But yeah. Anyways, he pitted on lap 3 for hard tires, so he was planning to go on the end. And I'm assuming he didn't come in during
power unit.
Power unit. Okay.
It was new power unit elements and changed the setup, resulting in a breach of park for me.
Okay. Awesome. Well, there you go. Alfa Romeo, same as Alpine. They just they are just not having a year at all. What was funny is on lap 9, because Carlos and Charles were like really managing those tires from the beginning. Zhou, who was back in like 19th place at that point, because Yuki had already dropped out, right? So he was like 18th, 19th, somewhere in there. He was having the same lap times as the Ferraris. So like, he was going for it, but it was because the Ferraris were managing their tires.
Which is, I'm impressed with how well they managed their tires this race.
That's been an issue, I feel like, I mean,
like Ferrari and managing tires going in the same sentence is like an oxymoron to me. Like,
we have had the worst luck with that. Terrible. I mean, Red Bull's the one that can manage their tires like mad, but usually, again, because he's out in front, he doesn't have dirty air, he doesn't have to defend anybody. Like, but yay for Carlos. Logan hit the wall, lap 19, left a lot of carbon on the track. His wing was underneath his car. Did you see that?
I saw that. I swear I feel like they got all the carbon off, because the commentators talk about, well, there's a piece there, and just a few seconds later, like, oh, the yellow flag's been lifted. I'm like, did somebody run out and get that last piece, because a car just went past it?
They all went past it
out there.
Yeah, they all went past it, but there was a piece when the yellow flag came up. There was a big piece out there. Like, what are you
Still
doing?
on the track. I'm like,
And like the commentators were like, why bring out a full yellow flag? Because all the drivers had gone past it, the debris, and so why not just a virtual safety car to get that like cleaned up? But they went full safety car. I was wondering if there was some shenanigans going on there, but whatever. But Logan is able to turn the car around and drive back to the pits, dragging the front wing under his car. Like, I'm like, how does that not destroy your floor?
I
Like,
know.
they put a new wing on and got that one out, and boom, off you go. But yeah, I thought that was really, really interesting. And Albon, I mean, he finished, what did you say, 11th? Just outside the points, thanks to
yeah, he got 11th.
Okay. But he was in the points for quite a while, right?
Yeah, he was. And he this is the one where he got hit by Perez. This is the investigation.
That's
he got hit by Perez in the last couple of laps. And they said there was going to be an investigation. Then he dropped down a couple. I swear he dropped down right then.
Yeah.
And I've been watching and I haven't seen anything else come out about that.
I haven't seen anything yet, but I'm talking to you, so I don't. Like, you're a researcher over there. Yeah, that would have been a bummer because especially if Albon had finished in the points, that would have been yet another race in the points for him. But they were expecting nothing this weekend at Singapore, and if he had finished in the points, that would have been major. Like that would have been huge for Williams. But let me ask you this. Like, what are we feeling about Logan getting his seat next year? What do you think?
I don't know. I it's one of those things. He just has not. He has struggled all year. I mean, all year, and I can't call it the car because I think it's been him. And you go and you see what Liam is doing, and Piastri is doing.
Yeah, I think especially I'm with you. Like.
And I hate seeing the only American driver get knocked out, but
I know. I'm torn because I do feel like Williams will give people more time. But at the same time, like you just said, I think Liam coming in and doing as well as he has been, especially coming in, not knowing this car, he didn't get the practice like, Logan did in the preseason and everything else. This Liam coming in and doing as well as he is not doing Logan any favors at all. I think it's going to highlight the fact that maybe you could have another driver in there and you might get more points. Alex can't be the only one scoring points with that car. But speaking of teams where one driver scores all the points, Aston Martin, your team. I mean, Lance doesn't even participate today.
Yeah, he didn't participate. And Alonso was not having the best day, but he was keeping it up there. And then he went in and decided to do a second pit stop and change those tires again. And they just flubbed it, a 25-second pit, 25 seconds. And they just dropped him at the back, and he never recovered. But he was saying even before that pit that the car was not drivable.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on in the car because he was just barely keeping it going, And he was doing – he would pass, and there was a little bit of jockeying and back and forth, but it's just not good at all.
It was sad. It was sad to watch because I felt like he had some good practice, if I remember correctly. And he was trying, like you said, he was trying to stay in there. He was trying to push that car, but it just was not working. And I feel like, again, we're kind of back to like, we had that flash of him on the podium again, a couple races ago, but then now it's like they're back to being
yeah,
they're just back to being black. But listen,
I don't know what's up with that.
Should Lance have a seat next year?
See, I don't know. I swear, I just don't think his heart is in it. I don't think his heart is in it at all. I don't think I think he's racing because dad wants him to race. I don't think he wants to be there.
I wonder. I just think it's showing that he's not as good. Like, I mean, again, look at Liam Lawson coming in, Oscar Piastri. You've got rookies coming in with cars that weren't as good as yours. aren't as good. I mean, AlphaTauri should not be better than the Aston Martin right now, for sure. But I mean, I know Papa Stroll is not he's
They
like the
just upgrade
majority
the
owner.
AlphaTauri. They just upgrade the AlphaTauri for this race, like a
Yeah,
lot.
they did.
But
They did.
But
That is
still,
true.
I mean, your point's true. I mean, it's just, I just don't think his heart's in it. I mean, that kind of wreck that he did, and
That's a
I mean,
typical Lance wreck from years past. Like, honestly,
well, like I say, he's kind of regressing. It's like he's
Yeah.
getting careless, and he's just, it's like his heart's just not in it. You know, I don't think he's just as focused. And I did find the presser where they basically said he's still has after effects from the race, including being sore, and so they decided not to race, and that he would be. He decided that he would be. The wording is. Following Lance's crash in qualifying, Lance and Aston Martin have jointly agreed that he will not participate in the Singapore Grand Prix this evening. The team faced a huge job repairing the car today, and understandably, Lance is still sore following such a high impact.
Yeah.
His focus now shifts to fully recovering ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix. And they said that he was still feeling the after effects of the crash, and thus have decided for him to focus on fully recovering versus racing today.
Yeah. I mean, that's an exhausting race. I don't even know if it ended up being 2 full hours. I didn't look at the clock, but when it ended, but it's exhausting. You know, they say
he just drags it out of him too.
Absolutely. But I mean, I don't know. Papa Stroll is the majority owner of Aston Martin F1, and he might have to make a tough decision. I mean, I couldn't imagine cutting your kid, but he's nowhere near the points that Fernando has scored in the same car. And yes, Fernando is a 2-time world champion, but you should be able to keep it somewhat close. Like,
I agree.
That's just my feeling. So who knows? We might have like a random seat open, but we'll see what happens there. I mean, it's been a rough year for Lance between the bike accident and the risks and this, and yeah, it's just
well, if you look at the standings for Lance, he's 9th right now. He's got 47 points, but he leads the middle of the pack, and others are starting to catch up because Gasly's 2 points behind, Piastri's 3 more points behind. So it's 47 for Lance, 45 for Pierre, 42 for Oscar, 36 for Esteban, and then it drops to 21 for Alex. So
but Fernando's like fourth. Fernando's like fourth. He has like 170 or something.
Well, between Lance and Lando, Lance is at 47. Lando's at 97. So he's 50 points behind the next person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lando started off with a horrible car. We have to remember that too, is Aston Martin was a beast at the beginning of the season, and the McLaren was not. Lando's done all of those like since like Silverstone? Like that's when he started coming on.
Aston Martin was second for a while in the driver standings or the constructor cup, and now they're fourth. Because Mercedes is second and Ferrari is now third.
Yeah, Ferrari. Yeah, they haven't been doing well. And again, when only one of your drivers is basically scoring points or getting podiums.
And this time, no points for the team. I mean, you get no points. Your entire team gets no points for that's terrible. Your competitors are getting high points.
That's not good. Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. I think that will be major news if Papa Stroll cuts his kid.
Or Lance just decides not to continue.
I think that's how they would position it, even if it was Papa Stroll's decision. I think that Lance would be. I think it'll come out that Lance decided to go play tennis or something. Like that's gonna be the thing. Anyways, AlphaTauri, Yuki, we talked about him out in lap 2. Contact with Perez. I mean, the Red Bulls were just killing Yuki this whole weekend. You have Max impeding him in qualifying. You've got Perez hitting him on lap 2. Like, come on. He needed a good race and he didn't. And we've been talking about Liam. I mean, just incredible. I'm so impressed with him. Last week I didn't really want him on the grid. Now I don't want him replacing Yuki. Do not get me wrong. He can go someplace else and have a seat. But maybe he could go to Williams. Go to Williams, and you can have a seat with Alex. That would be good. And then Yuki can stay. Okay, I worked it all out. It's good.
There you go.
There we go. So Haas, I just feel for them because yay, Q3, like, and after finishing Gunther's book and knowing how excited he would get with like just one car finishing and qualifying, I could just picture him being so excited after qualifying yesterday.
They asked him, like, what do you think? He's like, we're just so lucky to be here.
And he's not wrong because their race pace is still just trash. Like K-Mag lost some spots. Lap 36, he was just like, he was all over the place and dropped down to like 16.
But he got points. K-Mag got 10th, so he got a point.
Yay! I didn't realize. Where did Hulkenberg? Like 13th.
Hulkenberg got 13th.
Ay. All right. Well, yay. Good. Okay. Now I don't feel so sad for them. Hooray, Haas. Good for you. Okay, let's get down to these last few teams. So McLaren, Lando.
Thanks all for sticking out. This is a big one. We're at the hour mark, so we're still going.
Yep, we're almost done. McLaren, Lando, really great weekend. Definitely those upgrades were working for him. And at the end of the race, like I was cheering for him so hard. Like I didn't want him to get past Carlos, of course, and I didn't think that he would, but I was like, you have got to defend, especially, and we'll talk about this, especially when Charles just couldn't handle it and the Mercedes like both passed him. I was like, Lando, please, Lando. I was like praying. That whole last few laps it felt like it lasted an eternity. But I was like, Lando, please protect Carlos. He is your very good friend. Like, please protect Carlos. And he did. I think there was one point where George did try to get past and Lando was like, no way, not doing it.
And George had gained when he came back after getting his second set of tires. George had gone, he was 16 seconds behind Charles. Gain got past him, so that was amazing. Had plenty at his pace, had plenty of time to win it. He literally had plenty of time to win it.
Yeah.
But could not get past Lando, and then, as we know, crashed out right at the
Lando Norris.
But he was on pace. He was on the right pace to win the race, and even the commentators were talking about that. I mean, he was killing it.
Absolutely amazing drive by George for sure. But Lando, awesome defense, and Piastri, he was pretty quiet the whole race, but he got points, so. Good for him because he did not look good all weekend. And I think you could really see the difference between the two cars. Lando had the upgrade. Oscar didn't. Oscar's a great driver. We've seen that already this year. But he did get up in the points. So double points again for McLaren. Like, awesome job. Wait, let's talk about Mercedes really quickly. And then we can, let's talk about Red Bull first because they sucked and we don't have a lot to say about them. They sucked.
It was amazing, and we did not have to hear their anthem. We didn't have to hear Max's anthem. We didn't have to hear their anthem. They weren't even on podium. Not even like winning. They weren't even on podium. I was just like, neither drivers on podium. I just had this weird like, oh, Max is going to find a way to get up there. He didn't even get up there.
No.
And if it weren't for Russell, I feel bad that he crashed, obviously. But Max got 5th. But if it weren't for Russell crashing out, he would have gotten 6th, which hysterical. Yeah. Max could have only gotten 8 points and only gotten single-digit points. That would have been amazing. No fastest lap for him. Only 10 points.
Yeah, only 10. No podium. But here's the thing. Yesterday after Q2, when he did his press, thingy, he was like, we're not gonna get the podium. And I was like, if he doesn't believe they can get the podium, they're not getting the podium. Yeah. I knew yesterday, like, he's not getting it. He doesn't even think that they can do it. I thought it was interesting, and I was a smidge worried during that safety car. I think it was Logan's, right? They didn't pit Max. They kept him out there. And they thought that Carlos would come out behind Max. And we know, like, Max, the Red Bull, even though they suck, like, maybe they were thinking if he had some clean air, like, he could get a lead. Carlos still ended up in front of him. So their strategy didn't really work that well because he was on really old tires and everybody else was not.
Well, news is coming out now that Alex Albon has labeled Sergio Perez's attempt to move past him there that caused the collision as effing dirty.
Alex doesn't hold back.
Yeah. And
He
we're
is
an hour
pretty.
past. We're an hour past their being called in. And it was Perez being called in, and Alex as a witness, kind of thing, by
Yeah.
the steward. The hearing, the meeting was an hour ago. So I keep refreshing to see if before we're done we get a ruling. But yeah, we're an hour past that meeting
But
with the FIA.
even if they give him a time penalty, it's probably just 5
Not
seconds.
enough. It won't be enough.
It's not enough to get Alex back in the points.
Yeah.
That's what I get irritated with the sport, is like it's just not. I mean, life isn't fair, but it's just not fair when you the same thing in Austin last year with George causing Carlos to crash on turn 1 in Austin, and he got a 5-second penalty, but Carlos's race was over. Like, but I just think that's so crappy.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
back to Mercedes. So yesterday after qualifying, George said, we held back a set of Mercedes. We held back a set of medium tires for both him and Lewis. And they knew that was going to be part of their strategy. So when we had that second yellow flag and they pitted both Mercedes at the end there, they put them both on those mediums, and they thought for sure that was going to get them up there. And like you said, those tires brought him from 16 seconds behind Charles. They both passed Charles, both George and Lewis. And those 4 cars, that was so freaking exciting at the end. Those 4 cars right in a row. And both Lewis was fighting George also. Not great for George. But they were all fighting at least Lando, and made it such, like, it went from a boring race to like I was up and walking around.
Just fantastic. It was crazy.
It was insane. At the beginning of the race,
you were the best races so far, honestly. I mean, with just the excitement,
was good.
The excitement, you're on the edge of and you're on the edge of your seat. There was so much back and forth and competition, right? There's so much competition in a couple of areas of the sectors of the race too, in the track, right? It wasn't just in one area. You had the middle, you had the front. It was so good. It was so good. It's so close. I mean, the times between George and Lando is 0.8 seconds, and between the top 3 was 1.2.
Wow.
And had George not fallen out, it would have stayed right around in there, like 1.2 seconds between the top 4.
And then what? Like, if Red Bull was not so dominant, this would be every race, because those teams are that close. And it really was coming down to the strategy, like the managing the tires, the pit stops, all of that stuff. This would be every race. We would be on the edge of our seats like every race. And George wanted it. Like, he said multiple times, I want to win this race. Tell me what, even at the beginning, tell me what I need to do to win this race. Like, he wanted this win so bad. And again, because Red Bull has been so dominant, this is the first team, Carlos in the Ferrari, the first team to win a race this season that is not a Red Bull. George knew, like, I have this one opportunity because Red Bull might win the rest of the races. Like, it might be it for them. And he went for it. He went for it on that last lap and crashed right into the wall. I was gutted for him, honestly. And I did too. I mean, I
was watching the timing, and the live timing is just a few seconds ahead, and I see Lewis go up to 3rd. I'm like, no. And then I see him keep going down, like something happened. Oh no, what happened? What happened? It wasn't just a pass. And then I turn my head and I see it. I'm like,
I felt so bad for him. He was so sad. But you know what? I guess at the same time, like, yeah, you could have been on the podium, but he wanted to win. And he might have regretted not taking, some sort of action to try to get past Lando. He might have regretted it. But anyways, Ferrari wins. And like, my driver's on.
Carlos. I love that it was Carlos too. And one of the things I said after the race was, and there it goes, Carlos is the dominant one, when Charles is the one that Ferrari seems to be putting up on the pedestal and doing all the stuff for. And Carlos dominated all weekend. He was just on all.
And same with last weekend. But this weekend, Charles couldn't compete. But here's what I thought was interesting. So at the very beginning, Carlos was quick off the line again. Like he was in Monza also. Like he was gone. Like George who? Like, and Charles was right behind him. And that was brilliant. Loved it. But Charles was told multiple times, you need to drop back. You need to be 3 seconds. A target is 3 seconds to Carlos. And on at least 2 of the times, Charles did not sound happy. He's like, that leaves me at risk because all the teams were very bunched up because, again, strategy was managing the tires, keep a very kind of slow pace, like nobody was going for it. He was like, not thrilled. And then he set the fastest lap. And then Javi on lap 17 had to come back and he's like, the target is now 5 seconds back. So no more than 3. Now you need to be 5 seconds back of Carlos and you need to do it within 5 laps. Like, and at that point, Charles was like 2.443 seconds behind. So he really needed to drop back. They really were actually this time prioritizing Carlos on the strategy. Like, thank God. Now, Charles had a really slow pit stop. That messed up his race, I think, in my opinion. They had to hold him because, like, George had come through and then Lewis was coming through, so they had to hold him. It was just not good. When Esteban had his issue and the flag came out, Charles said he wanted new tires and they said no, which was the best option for Carlos. It was. Now, not having those fresher tires really did, that was what allowed the Mercedes to go past him. Like, it was crucial for him to keep them behind, but he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. But Carlos, my little strategist, smart little driver, smooth operator, his engineer comes on. He's like, Lando has DRS. And Sainz is like, I know. Like, I'm doing that on purpose. Like, hello, strategy people at Ferrari. He was doing it on purpose. He wanted Lando to be close enough to him to keep those Red Bulls, oh my God, the Mercedes cars back. Like, he's thinking. And then once George crashed, like, that was it. I was like, he's won. Even though he said, like, his front tires were finished, like, I knew Lando wasn't going to get past him. But I'm telling you, I had to watch the podium. The smile on Carlos's face, the entire podium celebration. I am going to put together a little reel of all of the pictures because he was so happy. And like you said, like, not hearing the Dutch national anthem and the Austrian national anthem, like, Carlos was just beaming when the Spanish anthem was playing. And then when the Italian anthem was playing,
they were all singing it.
He was singing it. The crew was singing it down below. And he was like this, directing them from the top. I was, oh my gosh. And I thought it was interesting, though. Fred was up there for the constructor. He took the constructor trophy.
I love that they were talking about he was their 3rd or 4th choice for principal. So that's pretty cool that he got him.
Good for him. And Fred's like such a jokester. So they do the champagne and he gets a hold of Carlos's, the back of his suit, and just pours the champagne down Carlos's back. And
I was thinking today when they were doing all that, like, oh my gosh, could you imagine having to clean those things before the next race? Ew.
I would just toss it. Maybe just frame it. I don't know. Like, can you frame it? Would it smell? Preserve it somehow. You've got to save that. So that's 2 wins now for Carlos. And now I'm going to have to add a new screensaver to my phone of Carlos. I have the Silverstone one that comes up every once in a while. And now I'm going to have to add this one. So yay, Carlos. Best. I could not think of a better person to beat a Red Bull and finally get a win. Okay, really quickly, beyond the grid. George Russell this week spotted at the Rugby World Cup. I didn't know there was a Rugby World Cup. No clue.
Oh, you didn't know that? I knew that.
I did not know that. So there you have it. Also, Nick DeVries was on a trip with Max. They're vacation type of friends. I did not know that either. Like, okay.
I didn't know that.
Nope. They're vacation friends. They're not even like grid friends. They're like vacation friends. Like, there was a whole group of people, like guys, that went on this trip. Anyways, so remember last week I was telling you about Alex Albon was coming out with his new line of Alex Albon Athletics.
Yeah.
So of course I'm on the email list, and I got an email, and he came out with new shoes. They're called the
Sure.
Classic Marina. Oh, I feel like I sent a picture. No, I meant to.
No.
Anyways, so they're called the Classic Marina. This is like an upscale line. I'm just telling you that. Like, this looks like it's going to be an upscale merch. It's not going to be just your basic driver t-shirts. Like, no offense to Lando, but he does like his LN, and it's just whatever. These are like nice looking shoes. I got an email actually this morning saying that they have limited stock. They're not going to be releasing more, so you better go get them. And Yuki, being the global treasure that he is, was wearing them this weekend because he's a supporter and he's friends with Alex, and he was wearing Alex's shoes this weekend. So I'm kind of can't wait to see what else he comes out with. Like, I mean, I wasn't going to buy, they were like $176. So very nice shoes, but it kind of makes me excited for whatever other product he's going to launch, because I can't wait. Okay. Let's talk about next week, because this was the first of a back-to-back race week, and we've got Suzuka next week in Japan. So here we go. It's old school. Everybody seems to love it. Claire's got the track up because it's a little different. So it's 53 laps. There's one DRS zone. It's 5.807 kilometers, and there's 18 corners. There's 10 to the right, 8 to the left. In 1962, I'm going to mess up the first name, but I can't even say it. Soichiro Honda. He thought the company should have their own test track, and he had this made. And it first appeared on the F1 calendar in 1987. It's totally high-speed track. It's challenging for the drivers. You can see on here it's got some snaking S curves, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks kind of fun doing this. The corners cover everything from the really slow hairpin, which is number 11, if you're watching on our YouTube, to the very high speed. It's called 130R. I don't even know which one that is. So there you have it. It is the only crossover track on the calendar. So it forms somewhat of a figure 8. So that's kind of cool. You got the crossover thing happening. The power units have to work really hard because the engines are running at maximum revs for about 65% of the lap. So wow. The power unit has got to be like full on clicking. That long straight that you see there between 18 and 1, it's 1.2 kilometers long. The drivers apply full throttle for about 1.5 seconds. So again, that power and the traction are super key factors in that section. And then it's a home race for my global treasure. Yuki is going to be all over. You just know it. So it should be another, hopefully really fun race. We've got another classic track, a track that the drivers love. It's a challenge, but it's fast. So
I'm looking forward to that one. That one's going to be cool. I love the crossover too. So
I love that crossover, and I did not realize
there's two long open areas too to get a lot of speed. So, but no DRS. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know about the overtaking, but I didn't even know that this track was originally built for Honda. Like Honda built it as a test track for their cars. They wanted to be a powerhouse, in automotive stuff. So I'm excited, and honestly, like, I hope that Ferrari shows out like they have the last 2 weeks. I'll take Carlos on pole for a third straight race. Yes, please. Yes. Yeah. So that's it. It was another great day. I got to go wear my shirt to the farmer's market, and hopefully people say Forza Ferrari to me, and I'll be "Si tifosi." Yes. I'm ready.
I did that for a few days, man. That's for sure.
I've had such a busy week, and again, I've been up since 4:45. The race started at 5 a.m. my time, but I kind of just want to go walk around in my Ferrari shirt. Like, I just want to go places. I should go to NFL. I should go watch football in my Ferrari shirt.
There you go.
Wonder what Renee's doing. Yeah, there we go. All right. Yay.
But it's been amazing. It's just what a way to start off my anniversary and birthday week without a Red Bull win. Is all I'm saying. So I'm loving that part. So
yes, and we need to finish the same way. We need to finish.
I know, right? For my birthday, could we have them not win again, please? I'll be in Ireland when we record next time. I got to figure out how I'm going to make that work. So
We'll figure it out.
we'll figure it out.
Have an awesome
All right.
trip.
Well, it was great. Thanks for everybody coming along for the ride. It was a little bit of a long one, but it was worth it because there's so much amazing stuff. So
Yes. Forza
Ferrari.
Ferrari. Woo.
All right. Thank you all. See you next time.
Ciao.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and a review. To stay up to date with She Loves the Grid and get all the behind the scenes content, you can follow us on Instagram at She Loves the Grid and on Facebook at facebook.com/She Loves the Grid. Thank you for joining us for the ride this week.